Good afternoon and welcome to our November Ordinary Council meeting. Just a reminder to turn your phones off or put them on silent. And we have some important decisions to make this evening, so please respect council, refrain from any talking in the gallery, and just a reminder, please no offensive or defamatory language. Would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Wadandi people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past, present and emerging. Also like to advise that this meeting is digitally recorded in accordance with council policy. We are not live streaming this evening because we don't have the facilities here. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of the meeting by any means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. Whilst every endeavour has been made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting, loud comments or noises from the gallery may be picked up on the recording. Apologies. Do we have any apologies? No, we have full house. Oh, sorry, we have one apology from Mr. Dolzadelli. It's just, okay, thank you. We don't have any approved leave of absence. Do we have any applications for leave of absence for our next council meeting? No? Announcements from presiding member. I believe there's a number of listed of all my activities for this month. I'd also like to pay tribute to a very long reign in council is the late Steve Dilley. Unfortunately lost his life in this month, and he was on council for 12 years, commencing in 2005. He was also president for 8 years of that. And he had a wealth of knowledge in horticulture and many community organisations in the Shire. Just like to also thank the community for sending out lots of emails. I've received lots of emails and phone calls over the last week or so. So just like to thank you very much, and I really appreciate everyone's point of view. I've had some good feedback, both positive and negative, but thank you very much, really appreciate it. Moving on to declarations of interest. I'll pass over. Sorry. No, you can, if you've got some announcements, any activities that you've been, yes?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Councillor Glover.
Is it on? Yeah. On the 3rd of November, I represented council on the Cities Power Partnership conference as well. Can you hear me? That was an all-day conference which was held in Busselton, and also on the 9th of November, I attended the South West Ports stakeholder meeting as well.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Does anyone else have they any announcements community things that they've been to? No? Thank you. All right. We'll move on to declarations of interest. I'll pass it over to the CEO. I believe we have one there.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President. We have one declaration of interest from Councillor Massey. She's declared a proximity interest in relation to item 9.1.1, which is a South West Native Title Settlement agenda item, where the Shire is being asked to provide advice to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage. As it's a proximity interest, Councillor Massey will need to leave today's chamber for that part of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we have public question time, responses to previous public questions taken on notice. We have a couple of there from previous month's meeting. You will note. I'm moving on to 5.2, which is public question time for this evening. Do we have anyone in the gallery would like to ask a question? Yes, please come on down and state your name and address.
It's recording.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Helen Christensen, and I live in Balingup. I'd just like to know exactly what repairs are going to be done to Jays Road. I noticed this morning that the contractors are back there putting gravel on the shoulders, and the Shire were there last week, or this week I should say, filling in potholes. We just need to know whether we're going to have bitumen over those gravel shoulders and the whole road, otherwise, or we're just having the shoulders and we're just going to be full of potholes all over again. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll pass it over to our Director of Operations.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Basically, my understanding is that they're basically doing shoulder work, but it won't be bitumenised on the shoulders. I will need to confirm with our Manager of Works and Services, but I can get back to you with the information exactly as to the work that's been undertaken on Jays Road.
So that means no extra bitumen, it just means gravel shoulders?
Yes, as far as I understand, that's the work that's been done right at the moment. But I'll confirm with the manager and get back to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Are there anyone else in the public gallery that would like a question? Yes. Please come down. Yep. State your name and address, please.
Louis Tuia, Donnybrook. This is in relation to the H.J. Denning Trust. H.J. Denning, if I can make a comment rather than the question for a start, and you'll know what I'm on about. Can I make a comment rather than just a question?
Must be a question. This is public question time. Do you have a question, Mr. Tuia?
I do have a question. How can the Shire, in this executive statement, quote, "It is recommended to engage Jackson McDonald to facilitate transfer of funds from the previous Jack Denning Trust to lodge to a charitable trust comprising..."
Mr. Tuia, just a moment.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
This seems to be a contradiction. It's recommended to engage Jackson McDonald solicitors to facilitate transfer of funds from the previous Jack Denning Trust to lodge to a charitable trust composing of previous signatures to Jack Denning Trust. All you're doing is pass the money back. Neil Fole here is executive of Jack's will, as is Mr. Ian Payton, and we're going to have to pay $7,000 for these evil deals in Perth to produce a trust. Now, I've been involved with quite a few settlements and wills, but this is the first time I've come across something like this. Yet the question is, why? Do you want to change it around when you give it back to the same people who have signed before? Why do you have a trust that'll sign the same signatures that you've got in the will already? What's the point?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Tuia. I'll pass it over to the CEO. He will be able to explain.
There's more to come.
Okay, that was one question. So we'll answer that question for you.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Tuia. I recognise and appreciate you coming along tonight. The discussions that we've had, you and I, over a number of months have involved legal advice from from the Legal Eagles in Perth, and their advice to the Shire has been that to lawfully transfer the money from Mr. Denning's trust back to an appropriate body requires that a charitable trust be established, and the recommendation to the council tonight is really following that legal advice.
Thank you. Mr. Tuia, do you have another question? Because you'll
I do understand that.
Questions.
I do, and Mr. Rose and I sorted this out on Monday. We had an argument about the amount of money that was in the trust, and Mr. Rose explained to me how he got that amount. It was a mistake adding all the trusts together. My concern is this. We're going to pay a trust $7,000 to reach an agreement, which we all know is going to happen. Why the hell do we have to do that? Have we got so much money? It's coming out of Jack Denning's estate again.
So, your question?
My question is, why do we have to have I know I've spoken to Mr. Rose, but I cannot understand why you have to have another legal structure, which is the same people managing the funds. In my opinion, if I may, Mr. Fowler will tell you he's still an executor of that estate. He's still an executor. Is that correct, Neil?
That's correct.
Just say so.
Yes, I am still the executive of that will and the trust, and I can see that we would have to be absolutely sure. We would have to be absolutely sure that those funds finish up in a place that Jack Denning wanted them to go to, which is to a Toohey Lodge Charitable Trust, and we hope that's where we will be sure that that's where it goes to. Okay?
Rephrase that question is, will it go into a Toohey Lodge Charitable Trust?
No. It remains H.J. Denning Trust. The money has not been expired. And that's what the lawyers don't seem to understand. It expires when the money has all gone, when the money's totally dissipated. At this stage, it hasn't dissipated. When it was handed over to the Shire, when the Shire stupidly sacked the council, we had no more authority. And we asked the Shire to put it in trust for the H.J. Denning Memorial. Okay? That's what we asked them to do, because we had no other choice. So we're asking, and before you go to Mr. Jack, I know you have, Mr. Shire Clerk, and I appreciate that, but I don't think it's the right answer that I got. Not the right answer, the same answer that I got. It stays with the executors until that money is dissipated totally. And at this stage, there's still 206,000 left. 203,000 left.
Just, I'll try and rephrase that into a question, is you're still questioning the trust side of things. The legal advice we've received to lawfully transfer that money, it needs to go into a charitable trust.
But it's still the same two people.
But it could be you're referring to a different type of trust, which is that a charitable trust that's still going?
Leanne,
Mr. President, is going into...
We need those funds to go to a trust fund for the benefit of Toohey Lodge.
Okay, can you just rephrase that into a question, and then I'll ask for other people in the public gallery, because they probably are dying to ask some questions as well.
Yes, well, we do really need to know that those funds go into a trust fund that is for the benefit of the Toohey Lodge. Now, it's not to help build the lodge or to put new beds and things in it. It's to help the lodge to do the job that it wants to do. As a matter of fact, we've been discussing one of the things that this money could go for.
Okay.
Is a bus.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Well, I'll just take it as a question, and in regards to the money that goes into the trust, it's what it's used for once it's in the charitable trust is up to the actual trustees of that charitable trust.
Well, I'll be a trustee, won't I?
So the question, if you want to correct me, it needs. Did you want to? It needs to go into a charitable trust. So your question is, when it goes into that charitable trust, will it be used for Tuya Lodge?
Yes, that's it, exactly. Well, it's got to be used for Tuya Lodge, otherwise
Okay, so
it's not being used for what Jack Denning wanted it to be used for.
So the resolution tonight is to go into a charitable trust. It's the details you want is specifically can be, I would say, be negotiated with the person who's actually establishing that trust on your behalf.
Yeah, well,
So
that's fair enough.
that's the things that you need to discuss with that solicitor.
Well, would I
for the
be
purpose.
one of the trustees, or?
So,
Well, Lou and I could possibly be
all right.
trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Fole. Yeah, I think you better come in to the office and have a conversation about it. That would be probably the best thing, and then you can talk about the purpose of that trust.
All right.
We haven't discussed that, Madam Chairman. We
Okay.
haven't discussed that. We want the money as quick as you can.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks very much. If you can just take a seat and I'll just call on someone else. But look, I really strongly recommend that you go in, pop into the office and try and get down to the more detail on
When
that.
do you want us to do that?
Pardon?
When do you want us to pop into the office?
Just ring the office up and make an appointment would be the best thing.
Okay.
All right?
Yep,
Thank you, Mr. Fole.
I'll ring up in the morning.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public gallery that would like to ask a question? Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Angelo Legirdisi, Kirrup. Madam President, can you please advise me why the formal proposal for the Heritage and Arts Building project that was submitted to the CEO on the 20th of September has not been presented to the Council? If not, why not?
Thank you, Mr. Giudice. I understand the CEO's actually been liaising with you in regards to they're waiting on a valuation of the land, and you were provided with a couple of quotes. We've just had a discussion. You'll be pleased to know the council's had a discussion this evening.
Thank God.
Excuse me.
Carry on.
And that this proposal will be coming through to the December Ordinary Council meeting.
Okay. Look, just in relation to that question, my view is that the proposal should have gone to the...
What's your question?
The question is, it's probably a bit of a statement, but in regards to that question, wouldn't the proposal, I'll just rephrase it, wouldn't the proposal that I submitted go to the council or be presented to council for just a formal introduction in regards to what might be expected for the building site? My understanding is that it hasn't been presented, so the councillors have had no opportunity to make comment.
So what's your question?
Well, the question is, why hasn't it been presented to council first? The cart has been put before the horse in asking me to pay for, or asking the Deborah Committee to pay for a valuation.
Thank you for your question. As you know, you've been on council and as a Shire President, there is a process that we need to follow. We received a written proposal on the 20th of September, like you said, and the staff have been working through that proposal, gathering information, so the council have information to make an informed decision.
So I received one question. Is that the amount of work that's been done?
Yeah, that's your third question. Is that the amount of question? Sorry.
Well, is that the amount of work that's been done on this process?
So you're asking what is the amount of work that's been done on this
Yeah,
project, or how many hours that's spent on that project?
Yeah, well, you, in a phone call, you said 40 hours has been spent on it, and I've only had one question. There must be an issue.
There is no... Well, we're waiting on it. I already explained to you, we're waiting on a valuation of the land.
So the expectation is that Deborah pays for the valuation. Is that what it is? I've actually responded in that regard.
Okay, look, is there anyone else to ask questions? And you can come back to you in a moment.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Councillor. It's John Bailey from Baileyup. Regarding finances for VC Mitchell Park, factoring the cost for principal and interest payments...
Sorry, Mr Bailey, can you put your microphone up to your mouth, so please? I can't hear.
Okay, we'll start again, shall we? So VC Mitchell Park, thank you. Factoring in costs for principal and interest payments, Shire administration costs, general maintenance, which Department of Sport and Rec say is between 7.5% to 10% provision from day one of construction, the life cycle costs, asset renewal costs, loan guarantee and structural maintenance. Can any councillor here tell us what the yearly cost for this project will be?
I can't respond for the councillors.
Well, look, and that's telling, and I think that says it all. You're embarking on a $9 million project and nobody seems to know the true cost of it. So you've already answered the question. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions from the public gallery?
Yeah, Mike King from Baileyup. My question is very similar to John's in effect, because out here in La La Land we're all kept in the dark. When in April 2021 there was a big presentation on what the plans were for Mitchell Park, for VC Mitchell Park. Since then, and at that stage, the cost, I believe, was 9.5 million or just under, but 9.5 was to be borrowed. At the time, or since that time, the housing industry price index has risen almost 20%. So that puts the project up around closer to 12 million, say. What is the budget now for that project? And do we have a detailed project plan so that firm tenders can be sought for? Are the capital and operating costs required for each club defined and agreed by the clubs? And in view of Anna Dixon's comments on her concerns, even after the 9.5 million is spent, that the proposal may not be self-sustaining and will require further ratepayer support throughout its life.
Thank you. There seem to be a number of questions in there. I'll do my best to answer. The first one you mentioned about the $9.5 million project. That money, we've had to obviously reduce the scope down, so the price of the project is capped, so the council is not going over that. So it's not going to be 12 million. Like I said, we've had to reduce the scope down so we get basically value for our money for what money we have got. So now the other question you were talking about, Anna Dixon report. I did pick up that one. That was towards the end. Council have made it a blended management model would be used, which is similar to the arrangement that actually has been happening at the moment. And we can take the others on notice if... Yep, that's probably...
There was one other section there. So given that the scope of work has been cut in order to make it fit within our 9.5 million budget, what does the project plan look like now? Are you going to tell us?
We'll take it on notice and then get back to you. Is there anyone else in the public gallery that would like to ask a question?
I've got a second I have a second question, sorry.
I've answered 2 questions there for you. That's...
You've answered question 1A, question 1B and 1C. Now you have questions.
There's 2 parts to that. Is there any other one? We'll come back to you, Mr. King. Anyone else?
Thanks. Just on the same question, you've actually indicated that the proposal will come to council next month. Can I assume that all the questions have been answered in regards to that plot of land that we're wishing to acquire?
All the questions have been answered.
My communications were open with the CEO in regards to any questions that may need to be answered by the councillors when they receive the proposal. I have only received 1 question, and that's in regards to paying for the valuation. I mean, if the councillors don't have an opportunity to...
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Are you asking me, is the council still answer questions? Or sorry, I don't understand your question.
I think our committee wants to understand whether there is any questions from the councillors simply in regards to acquiring this land. Is it a possibility? Is it a no? What is it? And if the councillors have not received the proposal through the CEO, they can't answer to any questions.
I've responded to that previously. We've had a discussion and it will be coming to October's ordinary council meeting.
Sorry, you might mean December.
Oh, sorry, December. What did I...
That's okay, I'm happy to correct
December.
you. So...
Do you have another question?
Can you tell me in what format it'll go to council? Is it just going as a discussion? Is it going to be a formal proposal put to council to release that land? What might it be?
The question that you want to be answered is if the council support it in principle.
Absolutely.
Okay, well that's what will be coming to council in December.
Okay, so I assume there's no further questions for us to answer.
Is that a question for me, or is that question a rhetorical question?
Well, it's a rhetorical question, if you like.
Right.
But I have got another question, if I may. Or
one more. Is there any others in the gallery? Yeah, pass it over.
If you don't mind me not standing.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm having a battle.
Just your name and address.
Rod Atherton from Donnybrook. I hear the previous speaker talking about a Deborah project which is going to throw 3 or 4 community groups together. I'm a member of the Historical Society. The original offer from Mr. Fry was to do something solely for the Historical Society. That was his initial offer, and we embraced that. Since then, Deborah have somehow got their sleazy hands on it. It's all been turned into a Deborah project, where originally Fry offered it just for the Historical Society.
What's your question, Mr. Atherton?
Are you aware that this concept of a community hub has been twisted from a direct offer just to the Historical Society? No one else. Fry's obviously reneged. He's the puppet master of Deborah.
Your question is, am I aware?
Yeah. Are you aware that this project was simply supposed to be for the Historical Society? All of a sudden we've got Deborah's got this sleazy hands.
I got your question. Thank you, Mr. Atherton. Look, I was not aware, but we can only work with the proposal that we have in front of us, and we've received a written proposal, so we are working through that. There's a process.
So you're not aware that it started out simply the Historical Society? You're not aware of that because Deborah have dabbled into it?
Okay, all right. Thank you for your question. Are there any other questions in the gallery? Please state your name and address.
Neville Fry, Donnybrook. 2 questions. You're saying the VC Mitchell Park scope is changing. You're voting on something which is changing. Can you inform the community who's going to pay, what, 9,500 and probably, 9.5 million, probably 10 million, because you've put aside 500 million, you put aside $500,000 for in case anything goes overrun. Am I correct? So we're basically talking about a 10 million project is what you're allocating, plus or minus 100.
So the question you're asking is...
The question I'm asking is, we have a $10 million project, I assume, and we're not told what's in the scope.
Thank you, please. No question. No, thank you.
Your scope changes, and yet you don't inform the community what the scope is changing. Is a cricket pitch part of the new scope or not part of the new scope? We were presented something probably 9-12 months ago.
Thank you for your question.
I haven't finished. We were presenting something 9 or 12 months ago. What you councillors are voting on, what's different than what we were all informed about a drop-in cricket pitch? What has changed? I haven't heard anything. What has changed? Question, what has changed?
What has changed is the building environment that we're working in at the moment, which I'm sure you'd understand that.
Is that the answer? The scope. What scope has changed? What are you now getting for $10 million?
All right, we'll take it on notice and
All right.
we'll give you a response.
What, so you can decide...
Excuse me, that you've got a response.
Can you take on notice as a response?
You will receive a response.
Okay.
Do you have another question?
Now, for another person here who claims something and then goes around and tells everyone else, F Deborah.
Excuse me.
Yep.
That's it, please.
Point of order.
Yep, that's it.
Sit down, please.
Please sit down. Yes, please sit down. That is offensive.
So it's offensive when someone says it to us, or what? I didn't say the word.
Thank you.
Can you sit down, please? No further
Please,
questions from
yes.
that resident.
Thank you. If you don't sit down, you can leave. Okay. We have one question left, and then we're finishing public question time.
Can I please put a procedural motion that council vote on extending public question time?
It's not a procedural motion. No.
His question. That's councillor's question. Question time's finished.
Thank you. You can answer one question, ask one question, that's it, and then we're finished. Thank you.
At last week's special council meeting, the Shire President and CEO indicated there was a funding sequencing challenge requiring the contract to be entered into before the loan could be secured, before the financial assistance agreement could be entered into. In correspondence with Troy Jones last week, he confirmed, along with his advice 12 months earlier, that I have discussed this is Troy Jones's words, I've discussed this agreement with our infrastructure team who oversee the preparation of these grants and can inform that our agreement will not require the loan to be confirmed or to be signed. So Troy Jones is again indicating there is no co-contribution required to receive the $6 million. Will you correct the public record?
Okay, thank you. We will take that on notice and we'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Madam
that
President.
ends our public question
Madam
time.
President, I think it's important that we get these questions, any other questions. So I'd like to move that we extend question time.
Okay, we have a mover. We need a time. We've been going for 30 minutes now, I think. About 35 minutes now.
Well, at least 15 minutes.
What'd you say, 15? 15 minutes? Do I have a seconder on that? Councillor Jones? I'll put it to the vote. Yes, certainly. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour to extend the question time, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? Yep, it's carried. 6-3. Okay, we will continue with public question time. Yes, Mr. King.
Mike King from Balingup. In the past, when clubs have borrowed money to extend their facilities or upgrade their facilities, they've been required to make some sort of contribution. And the contributions have been, as I recall, about $180,000 for the Donnybrook Bowling Club, a third for the Balingup Bowling Club. The question is, and in this case, the Donnybrook Football Club will receive facilities worth $3.6 million, according to one of the estimates that was done by the Shire, $3.6 million. What contribution is the Donnybrook Football Club going to make to this project? What is their level of their skin in the game?
Thank you for your question, Mr. King. We discussed this at a special council meeting last week, and the minutes, the motion was read out to public, and the football club, the part of the motion was to secure funding of $250,000 from the Donnybrook Football Club.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding that self-supporting loan, I take that will be a bank guarantee by the club or a member of the club, so that if anything falls over, it doesn't come back to the community. And on the VC Mitchell Park, does council intend to provide full plans and full costings to the community, yearly costings to the community, before you sign off on this project? Yes or no?
As to your first question, self-supporting loan, we're actually working through with the staff is actually, the administration are working with the football club at the moment. I don't know how much of a loan they will be required.
The question was, do you intend to force a bank guarantee on whatever money they come up with?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Yes, yeah, absolutely correct. Very similar process that the Shire did before my time, but with the
Bowling Club.
Donnybrook Country Club. Yeah, you're right.
Club, yeah. Okay, and the other one is very important. So that's a simple yes or no, whether you're going to release plans and total costings to the community to be open and accountable. Will that be done, yes or no?
So the plans and the total cost, as in the cost of build?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that, yes.
Before we sign the contract, is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about open and accountable governance, it's not happening.
Yep. Okay, I'm just
There is nobody at this council, no councillor at this council that can tell this community how much this is going to cost a year. It's in the forward plans. Forward plans are a prediction. It was only 2 years ago the forward plans was $900,000 loss. and that was covered up by a $9 million grant.
Okay.
But the community lost $1.9 million worth of asset. So they're only wishful thinking, those plans. You have a duty, you have a fiduciary duty to these people, the ratepayers that are struggling, to quote exactly what this is going to cost them per year, and don't hide the figures, because that's what's happening. You know, you're about to sign a $9 million contract, and there's no honesty, there's no open accountability.
Okay, so at the last special council meeting last week, the motion was to go into contract with Perkins Builders, and there's stages in that. I don't know. Yeah, and there's various stages in that, and one of those stages is to do with design and planning and things like that.
You're avoiding the question. The question is, will you be open and accountable and show the public the full costings and the plans before you go into a contract? Too late after contract. This is a joke. This is an absolute farce, and you people ought to be embarrassed.
Yeah, okay. Completed. We will take that question on notice and let you know. Thank you.
Kevin Johns from Collins Street in Donnybrook. My questions are exactly the same as the last gentleman. I asked for plans and costings for the fun park at the council meeting. I had a private meeting with Mr Atherton, Mr Rose and Brian Plessy at the time. Couldn't get copies of plans, even though we were told they were available and I could walk down to the Shire and see them. In fact, my wife went down there the minute after Mr Atherton told me they could be available for us to see them. There was no plans or parks released for the park. The project was undelivered. So we didn't get any of the soft format that everyone was promising. We didn't get any of the extra stuff that everyone was promising. The park project, there was no plans delivered to the people of what we were actually getting. It was underdelivered. Brian Plessy told me the project was underdelivered. We didn't get exactly what we wanted, and we couldn't afford to get everything in the project. So why would we go into another contract for a football club without plans and without costings to the public? Are the contracts going to be fixed? Are they going to be fixed plus? What have we spent $350,000 on already? What have we spent the money on already?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I will take it on notice. The plans, we're actually going into the planning stage, like the detailed planning stage. There's always been a concept plan that's been on public view, which I'm sure you probably went to the forum to have a look at it. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Double-storey unrealistic project, is that the one we're talking about? It's online for us to look at for the plans?
That was your second question. That would have been that would have been at the forum. I think that's the one that you would have looked at then.
So that's the building that we're not going to be able to afford to do with the cost of buildings is going up. I sat in a meeting with Ben Rose and Brian Plessy.
Okay, have you got? Do you? Okay. Right. Thank you. We'll get back to you on that.
Everything's on notice. Everything is always on notice.
Thank you for your question. I'll pass it over. Is there anyone else? Thank you.
At the last council meeting, you confirmed that councillor or that the Shire had received the interim audit report. We still have not yet had a audit and risk committee. The CEO stated that it was the chair's responsibility, chair of the audit committee, to call the meetings. In communications with the well-qualified and well-respected and volunteer committee chair, his response was, I didn't realise I was responsible for scheduling meetings. And the chair has been in that position for at least 3 years. Why haven't we still had an audit committee meeting when we're waiting for the interim audit, the internal audit update, and 2 reports from the CEO from the audit committee meeting on Feb 9 this year?
Thank you for your question. The final end-of-year audit has been complete by Moore Stephens, and we are just waiting on the OAG to sign off on it, and there will be an audit and risk management committee meeting once we've received that from the OAG.
So we've received our financials before council or the audit committee has even received the interim audit report, which was delivered sometime in September.
Okay, so can you repeat that?
So you've stated that you've received the annual financials prior to receiving the interim audit report. So the interim audit report is usually delivered to local governments in September. It's a preliminary audit to give an update on anything highlighted prior to the audit. That has a statutory requirement under the audit regs to be passed by the audit committee prior to council receiving it. So it's...
So you're talking about the interim report, is that right?
Yes. So going back to, I guess, sorry, just a little long-winded. Going back to the initial question, we've got an interim audit report, we've got an internal audit update, and we've got 2 reports from the CEO, all requiring the audit committee to consider over. Why haven't we still had an audit committee meeting, and what was the breakdown in communication between the CEO and audit chair?
Thank you for your question. The internal audit function, the
CEO has previously stated that that was the responsibility of the chair of the audit committee to oversee.
Okay. So we'll have to take that on notice. Our Director of Corporate and Community is absent today, so we'll take that on notice and we'll let you know. Yeah, can you email the questions through so we've got clarity on those questions?
Yeah.
Thanks.
This financial year's capital spend was budgeted at $19 million, and the finance manager has previously stated that the budget was realistic and was fully funded. The capital spend was for $19 million for the financial year. Year to date has been a $450,000 spend. Is the remaining $18.5 million going to be delivered in the next 8 months?
Yeah, we'll have to get Kim Dolzadelli, our Director of Corporate and Community, to answer that question for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Has the CEO made council complicitly aware?
Just before you go, is there anyone else that would like questions? I don't want you sort of hogging the floor.
Has the CEO...
We've only got 1 minute, so...
Has the CEO made council complicitly aware he has access to their individual email accounts?
So your question was...
Has the CEO made council complicitly aware he has access to their individual email accounts?
Thank you, Madam President. No, Mr Circum. I've not made councillors explicitly aware. I think it's fairly a basic understanding that if the email accounts are set up by an organisation and they need to be recorded through the Shire's record keeping system, then there needs to be some way to access those emails.
I would have thought, as the council's sole employee, that there is some sort of duty to disclose that information to council. And the question to the Shire President is, do you think that is a reasonable situation, that the CEO hasn't made council complicitly aware of this fact?
Look, all councillors are aware that any correspondence is open to FOI, and that could include private emails, issued text messages, anything like that. So it is for public viewing under FOI. So
yes. Sorry, my question was, do you think it's fair and reasonable that council hasn't been complicitly made aware of this by the CEO?
No.
You don't think it's fair and reasonable?
Well, actually, councillors know from all their training that they do. That's part of their training that they do. So they are aware that any information is accessible by public through FOI.
And so how does council communicate regarding the CEO's contract discussions when the CEO has access to their confidential communications?
As they normally do, basically.
But if they're confidential and the CEO has access, they're no longer confidential.
Look, any information, I've just answered that, any information is, yeah. So that's your final question?
And that was your final answer?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. We've extended our time a little bit more, so. All right, we're going to move on. To 6.3. We have Wendy Troe from the Baling Up Progress Association. Thank you very much, Wendy. Yep.
Right, so for those who don't know, Baling Up has a median age of 58 years. We have a median age of 58 years. It's one of the oldest in the south. Well, it is the oldest in the southwest. Our income is much lower than the average of Australia. Our voluntary work is much higher, 40% as opposed to 14%. And we've got a lot of community groups. We've got more than 40 community groups. Baling Up Progress Association actually is an incorporated body, and we provide the insurance cover, the community centre and the workspace. We also have 19 subcommittees, 4 of which are events. So I won't read through all of those, but those are the 19 subcommittees that operate under umbrella of Progress Association. You'll all know the Small Farm Field Day. It wasn't held again this year, but it will be held in April next year on the 15th. And the theme's going to be small farms, big ideas.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
Ms. Troe, can the people in the gallery please show some respect to the person providing a deputation and cease speaking?
It's a little disappointing that all the Donnybrook people leave, actually, for a Baling Up presentation. Right, stalls, live entertainment, farm visits, and they're going to include a section on foot and mouth disease. Medieval Carnival, most of you will know about that one. Ticketed one-day event. This year we sold nearly 5,000 tickets. Around about 8,000 people attended. We had 145 volunteers registered, and there were more that actually attended but weren't registered. Feedback was overwhelmingly positive. The carnivals made a lot of money, and they're making an immediate allocation of $10,000 to the Community Trust Fund, which is spread around the community, and they're paying the whole insurance bill, which is about $7,500. And they're talking about probable future payments after they've sorted out the budget for next year's event. Yep. So the money from all these, the field day and now the carnival, pays for things like smaller events that aren't profit-making, like Telling Tales, Art and Craft Affair, and Health and Wellbeing. None of those were held in 2022, but they are all having discussions to hopefully run again in 23. We had a big strategic planning session in the community, a series of open spaces which were run by James Jarvis. A lot of strange places too, yep. Now that was me at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just want to show that because that's exactly what I got up in the middle of the night, and that's what it looked like on my whiteboard. Okay. But then we got down to something a bit more sensible. So Balingup is a centre of environmental sustainability. We're resilient, thriving. We're a village. That's very important. We're a village. We're a community that creates and learns and grows together, and the Progress Association is intergenerational and community-led and innovative. So one of the things that came out of the strategic plan was storytelling for kids, which was run by one of the younger people in the community. Yep. And Balingup Upcycle, which Jackie Massey started off in December 21. So the aims were to encourage recycling and upcycling and to establish an attractive shop in Balingup because we had a lot of empty shop spaces. The first half of the trading year, they raised $10,000 profit. $5,000 was given to the primary school for their breakfast program and other programs. $5,000 came into the Community Trust Fund. Yep. And then, of course, we had Balingup Music Experience, who've done a huge amount, like putting all these sales up, and they're planning to hold concerts, weddings, and community events and forums into the future and make it into the town hall into a really self-sufficient centre. Yep. So they started in March. We're hoping to take over the lease at the town hall. That's Progress Association. And by the end of the year, and message there is we're ready whenever you are. I know there's some problems, but we'd like to sort that out. So the music experience, they're going to run a wide range of music experiences, professional performances, community workshops, and a whole pile of other things. And they were even given a grand piano valued at $22,000. So they're getting a lot of support. And I must say that I've just heard that they've got two of the youngest members of the community who are in their 30s who have actually just agreed to take over as the chair and the vice chair. Yes, it's exciting. We finally got some intergenerational stuff. Okay, so we now have 4 sources of funding: the field day, the carnival, Upcycle, and the music experience, which are all going into one community trust fund, and we'll just distribute that probably once a year. Townscape. I just want to talk about Townscape. They are come under Progress Association as well, though they are funded by the Shire. So this year they worked with the Shire to build this new toilet block at the community centre. So they did all the on-site work, removing the old building, the earthworks, the new septic tanks, the leach drains, were all completed by Balingup Townscape members using their own equipment. So that was a huge contribution. And at the other end of the extreme, they replaced the Goose Crossing sign because somebody stole it. That's the trouble with our signs. They've also built a canoe launch pad, and they put the picnic table down near Balingup Brook with 2 bench seats. And on top of that, they also, each year, one of their members, Jeff McMullen, he waters the plants, the trees that they plant for 4 years. He goes out there and waters it himself, and he's done it every year for donkey's years. Yep. At the moment, they're looking at, well, no, they are, because I've seen them. They're going to install 5 large wicking planter boxes. They're putting limestone blocks behind the southern scarecrow so that it stands out more. They're installing hanging baskets in town. They're erecting cutouts at the northern entry to town, showing the different events. And they're also renewing the 6 banners on the northern entry to town. These are going to be double-sided banners that are going to represent what happens, not just the events, but also singing groups, sports, and things like that. And they're going to be made out of metal so they don't have to be replaced all the time. Skate Park is a new group, formed in late 22. In fact, just formed a couple of months ago. They're looking at the upgrade of the skate park. So that's something that you might be keeping your eye on, because that is a young group of people who are really interested in that. Community Forest Garden also comes under progress. They run permaculture and biological science classes for primary age school children. The children have built new veggie beds and a new frog bog, whatever that is. Come and tell me afterwards if you know. Beehive has produced 10 kilos of honey. Okay, it's a start, it's great. And they're also putting a sensory trail and magical area that's going to suit children with autism and kids with special sensory needs. And again, these guys are funded primarily out of the Small Farm Field Day with small grants that they got. They've got one recently from the Shire for $2,000. Men's sheds, they've been going a long time, and that's really an opportunity for the men to get together. It's mainly socialising, there's no work done. I should be on more committees like that. Patches and Craft, they made the wall hangings in the Lesser Hall. Hopefully you saw them on the way in. Hundreds of hours went into that, and it's helped improve the acoustics. And they've donated knee quilts to a cancer group. Yep. Then the rail group, I think council's probably across this, but they're looking at opening the railway line between Bunbury and Bridgetown, and I believe that that's going gangbusters at the moment. Malaliap Improvement Group, have to make a mention of Malaliap Improvement Group. They continue work on things relating to Malaliap. They actually come under Progress Association as an umbrella group. Tracks and Trails, Balingup Progress Association has got the use of the Bunbury prison team to help maintain our trails, which are falling into disrepair. We haven't been able to get them so far because they've been locked down with COVID. The Avenue of Honour, small group there, installed a new interpretive panel and did general maintenance, and they've been liaising with the Shire on doing a risk assessment report on the oak trees and to raise the memorial plaques above the ground level so they don't get washed away. Another very recent group, DFES, Community Resilience Workshops, have stressed the unexpected is going to occur more often, and communities cannot rely on government to save them. So in 2020 we organised a meeting of Telstra, Shire, Western Power and others to talk about the lack of communications when the power goes off and the mobile phone tower just stops working, and the landlines. So we recently formed a group and we're calling it the Balingup Resilience Group. The aim is to improve the capacity of Balingup to respond to any emergencies that come our way. So we've been given a satellite phone by the Shire, and that's permanently in Balingup for emergency use. We're also setting up a community information and social centre, which will be at the recreation centre. So during power outages, that place will be opened for people to come in, recharge their phones, and email. We've got a Sky Muster system in there now, which means that you can make between 70 and 100 VoIP calls at any one time. So we're feeling a lot more comfortable about communicating. And we're just in discussions with the Shire to access a generator during power outages. We're pretty close to finalising that. Yep. And finally, we also maintain the community facilities. We do all the repairs, pay the insurance and all the other bills. So the Progress Association really provides insurance covers for all of those groups that you've just heard about. We provide public liability, volunteers insurance, so that they can all operate without having to pay an absolute fortune on their insurance. And we also insure our own buildings. That's it.
That's it. That's good. Thank you very much. That's timing. Thank you. Yep. Before you go, sorry, Mrs. Wendy, sorry, before you go, we have a question. So
Thanks, Wendy. I just wanted to say well done. And your presentation was great as it was last year. I think it shows the power of positive people getting together, building things, making things, and having a direct impact on people's lives. And I think Donnybrook could well do with that, so we need to look at what you do and try and replicate it. But my question is, how are we going as a Shire? We're all here. I'm open for a bit of tough love. If you want to tell us how we're going, good, bad or otherwise.
Okay, well, I guess it's a little frustrating having heard all these conversations here today, because there is a lot of focus on Donnybrook, and that's fine, it's the biggest centre. I think that what we've asked for, the Shire has been giving us, like footpaths, and now we're saying, hey, look at the skate park, things that the younger people are really interested in, support for this building. So we're not asking for big, huge infrastructure. You know, traditionally we do it ourselves if we want stuff, so we're not asking for big, huge expenditure. What we are asking for is those little things, like, as I say, particularly the footpaths, the trails, so Alan Rothery Walk, they're on your list and the guys are already working on it. It's just a case of them getting the money for it. Yeah, getting the grant. But no, I'm happy with the Shire. But then again, I'm biased. I used to work there. Sorry, guys.
Nolan going next.
Wendy, can I ask a question as well? I've got two questions.
On notice?
Can you hear me? Yeah. I do find it amazing how the two towns operate so differently with Donnybrook and Balingup, and I love that grassroots kind of support that happens within Balingup, and what you've shown is just amazing. But what I got from that as well is it was talking about taking over the lease of the hall. Are you able to just elaborate on some of that a little bit more? Just, it might be a great idea for something that might be an opportunity for the people in Donnybrook as well, if you can elaborate.
Yeah, Balingup Music Experience want to run community events for free, and they want to be able to do things like weddings to make money, so that and some of those profits will come back to the community as well. And there's enough interest in it. Even their existing performances have shown that they've been very successful. And we also want the community to be able to come in here for free. You know, if young people want to come in and have a jam session and the kids all run around and having fun, that's what we want to see. We want to see the hall being used. So the only way really for us to do that is to enter into a lease agreement. We've already had initial discussions, and it's just a process now because the Shire's upgrading, staff are changing all their leases, so that's slowed it down a bit. But we have asked that a template's been developed, and we've said, well, give it to us, we'll fill out that paperwork and do that first, and you can use us as a bit of a trial run. Yeah, so, you know, to make it happen. Okay.
One more question. And this is something because it's been, I remember it was an ongoing concern way back when I was in lots of committees back in Donnybrook. Who do you get your insurance through? Is it through one organisation, or is it, as a Shire, do we help, and is it through the local government insurance people like us, or is it through
We were
something
very
else?
fortunate to have Helen Christensen and her team very many years ago when they set up the Small Farm Field Day. They declared it as an agricultural show, and under that, through Aon Insurance, we've got this amazing insurance package that I did actually when I was at the Shire try and get it for Donnybrook, and they just laughed at me. They said, you can't get it. But it is one of my little projects that I'm working on at the moment. I've spoken to our local MP. I've collected lots of information. In fact, I had a go at them at the breakfast again on Monday morning. So I am actively working on trying to get a community group insurance that might even be same as the local government system, that it is self-funded. If we could get Lottery West to put in, say, $500,000 to start off with, and then all the community groups paid into that instead of us paying it to Aon and people like that, then it could well end up being self-sufficient. But that's got a long way to go. But it is one of my things.
I do remember 10 years ago when it was a massive concern, so
yeah.
I agree, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it still is. I mean, community groups don't run activities because it's too hard to get insurance, just too hard.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate you all do a great job. Okay, well I'm Nolene and I'm from the Balingup Historical Project Group. Now we were established in 2012 and we're one of the many groups under the umbrella of the Balingup Progress Association, and we've been promoting the history and the transition of Balingup from 1862 to 1960s, and that's been over the past 10 years. The exhibition is in the old packing shed in the middle of town and is open every day from 8:30 to 4 p.m. and is an attraction for tourists and visitors to Balingup. The history of those who served from surrounding districts in World War I and II, the education of Balingup, the 5 original homesteads and a tribute to Walter Padbury are always on display and are continually upgraded with information and photos added to make it interesting for the local residents to also keep visiting. Every 6 months we change our main exhibition, and the current theme is based on the Italian migrants who left their country for a better life in Australia, working in the timber industry, the orchards and railway, and the contribution they've made to our community. Those who eventually took up land in Balingup and Molaleup went on to become successful landowners, farmers and orchardists. Many of those farms are still worked by the families today, and their stories, which are told in the exhibition, are an inspiration of what can be achieved by hard work, courage and perseverance. Over the years, we've featured 20 exhibitions or themes about Balingup alongside our static displays, which always remain there. And they've been the agricultural shows, the social life, the organisations, the sporting clubs, the railway, orchards, farming and the timber industry of Balingup. As a fundraiser and for publicity, we've also held ghost walks around the town, and we've had 12 local ghosts. And several movie nights at the museum have been held, and one was based on the Irish Fenians, so that fitted in with the heritage site. We also provide information and tours to school groups and age groups who visit the exhibit. The historical group have completed a walk trail around the town with interpretive signage at significant points. And just on finishing here, we would really like to thank the Shire for their ongoing support of the exhibition, which does attract many visitors to our area. So thank you for the support. Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for Mrs. King? Yes. Councillor Glover?
Not so much a question, Nolene, but my neighbour has contributed as an Italian migrant, and it has been so empowering for her to be writing about her story and the legacy that's left for her family to honour her parents as well and the work that they had done to the community.
Can I just respond to that too, Elisa, is that I think it's Vienna Radovic, and Vienna was one who contributed and wrote 25 plus pages, which were condensed down to 5. And the stories she's told are just priceless, so we're encouraging her to try and make a book out of what she's done. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for passing that on. Thank you. I've just got one question. You obviously don't, behind the scenes, there's usually a team of people helping you do all these displays, because obviously rotating these displays quite regularly takes time, takes a lot of people power. So is there a fairly large group of the society group? Well, we are in size, but there's Helen and myself and Carol Bullard, who has now left. Sharon Smith has come on to do our treasury work for us, but we just changed the displays over. In fact, we're looking at being the next theme, Helen and myself, in the exhibition. Not quite, but yes, so it's only a small committee, but it works really well. So we've got lots of contacts, Leanne, but thank you for asking that. Yeah. All right, thank you, that's wonderful. Okay, so we're going to move on to, we've got our, yes, sorry. Okay, we have Mr Sercombe who would like to do a deputation, but we'll need a mover and a seconder because we'll need to vote on it on the council. So mover Councillor Glover and seconded Councillor Jones. So what I'll do is I'll just put it to the vote. All those in favour for another deputation? Yep. Okay, 9-0 carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Council, for giving me the opportunity. Hi to all our admin staff, and thank you to our elected members and members of the community here tonight. This evening you have all been asked to make a decision, one that will set the course of the organisation and your community, one that will help forge your individual legacies on council. Whilst forming your decision, please consider looking at it not only from your point of view, but from the community's perspective.
Excuse me, just please refrain from mentioning staffing.
Okay. Consider not if a leader is charismatic or your personal connection to them. Consider your actual legacy, what their actual legacy says about them.
Can you skip the bit about anything to do with staffing? So what's the next part of your deputation?
I'm talking about leadership.
You're talking about leadership?
Yes.
In relation to what?
The leadership of the Shire of Donnybrook.
So you're talking about me? Is that correct?
I'm talking about leadership of the Shire, the council, direction of the organisation.
Right, so I've just got to get this clear. So you're talking about obviously a leader as in like all councillors have leadership roles on council as well. So you are talking about everybody on council?
Yeah, what we see in a good leader. There's been, the council's been copping a fair bit of heat of late, and it's, giving thought to what we consider is important in leadership.
Right, okay, so you're basically saying you're doing a deputation on leadership to look at traits of my leadership style. Is that correct?
No, this isn't about yourself.
Right. So who is it about? Is it about our CEO?
It's about leadership of the Shire.
So you're referring to the CEO?
No, I'm talking about the leadership of the Shire.
So look, if it's to do with staffing,
Shire of Donnybrook bailing up.
Okay, so you need to, have you got any other topics, or is it only the one topic that you're referring to in your deputation?
It's just leadership, yes.
Okay, which refers to the Shire. Look, I'm going to disallow that, because if you're referring to the CEO, he is an employee of the council, so you're referring to staff.
I haven't mentioned CEO or Ben Rose or anything in my deputation.
But you have talked about leadership in the Shire, and you said it's not about me.
We've got 9 councillors leading the Shire.
So you're now saying that it's not in the Shire, it's the council, leadership and the council.
Yes, sorry, yeah. Leadership of the council.
So you're sort of saying leadership of the council. So you're sort of putting...
Or leadership within the community is probably a better terminology.
Leadership in the community.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're referring to leadership in community organisations, leadership in general?
what we see in a good community leader.
Okay, so we'll assume that's a generalised statement and it refers to leaders in community groups, whether that's sports groups, non-sports groups. Council, is that correct assumption? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
The decisions made by this council affect every aspect of your community. It affects how much money comes out of all of our pockets. It determines the safety of our roads. It makes or breaks community groups. It shapes the culture of our community, and these decisions determine whether you withdraw from the community or whether each one of you can walk down the main street with your head held high. Please consider what your legacy will be. Will you be the one who looked the other way?
We know what our roles are, but that's not a general statement. You were talking about generally with leadership in different community groups. And you're specifically talking about council.
Is there a problem with me talking about mentioning council in my deputation?
No, you can't. Only for councillors. Please be more generalised in leadership.
Okay. This council is I might be wrong and others might be wrong. All 9 councillors are in the position... am I allowed to mention councillors? I can't see why not. So I'll continue. All 9 councillors are in the position to make decisions based solely on facts. You have the statutory right and responsibility to access these facts. Don't do this for us, do it for your own peace of mind. The last few years have seen a community divided and heading in a different direction from council. The further the paths widen, the greater the eyes on council. Currently, each community's discussion, each electors' meeting, and each change of leadership brings about more questions of council. Please don't try to block us out. Please listen to us. Speak to us. We are dying to hear from you. Explain to us so we can understand and not guess your point of view. Talk up in meetings. Let us hear your thoughts. Write to the community. Meet us before a meeting. We want real communication and less noise. Please replace our assumptions with what you know. We want to trust you guys, however the silence is confusing. While I like to think it, I don't have all the answers. And I trust many of you have a sensible and fair way forward in mind. One that will may be tough in the short term, but easier in the long term. One that the community will be proud of, and one that each one of you can be proud of. I intend to do whatever possible to help reconnect council with our community. I thank each one of you for sticking your arm up for this gig, and thank you all for the time tonight. Belief in absence of facts is meaningless, and I ask you all to consider the facts only. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sercombe. Does any of the councillors have any questions for Mr. Sercombe?
I always like to have a question. Thank you for that deputation, and the meaning I'm kind of making for that is that and I guess it's the platform that I have come to council on, is trying to connect community with council as well, so we're all working as one united group, although we will never be homogenous in that group. We all have different opinions and things like that. Do you have any ideas or suggestions that might kind of try to bridge and bring that group, us all as a whole, not only councillors, but the whole kind of community together. Did you have any ideas or any thoughts about how we might bring the group together? I mean, just to go on a little bit more, you hear about what's happening here in Balingup and how they are working so wonderfully as a community. Is there a way of, any ideas about how we might do that in Donnybrook?
Yeah, and I'll start off by giving credit where credit's due, and I thank the Shire President for leading the way on live streaming and for Council to support it. And that's definitely been a great success, with our first meeting receiving more views than the last 4 City of Perth Council meetings chaired by Mayor Basil Zemplis. So, and our last 4 meetings have received over 1,000 views combined. So, congratulations on that, and that's definitely a step forward, but it also shows the intense interest in Council. And further to your question, I definitely think we're reaching a time where some sort of community forum or some sort of mediation where we can where Council can reconnect from the community, and I think each and every one of us in the room is aware there is a growing divide. So yeah, I implore Council to consider drawing a line in the sand and going, let's a community forum, not an electors meeting, a round table chat where we can speak to councillors, councillors can speak to us, and communication is the key. So opportunity to do that in a non-confrontational way, and the community doesn't know everything Council does, and some decisions are often confusing without full knowledge. So I implore everyone to consider making a big step and reaching out, and my idea is some sort of community forum to start rebuilding those connections.
Thank you for the candid response. Thank you for that. Look, the decision for live streaming is a council decision, so it's hats off to everybody on the council. So
absolutely, and it takes the Shire President to get it on the agenda. So
I'm just going to put over. There's one more question I think over there. Yep. Councillor Atherton, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I picked up on what you're saying there, Shane, and I think it's important that we walk the walk. Effectively, we're judged on how we behave, and we've seen some great examples tonight with the Balingup Progress Association out there really doing it, making it happen. There's a Facebook group called the Donnybrook Progress Association. I've read some of the content on there. It's very condescending for the Shire. It mocks the CEO and effectively is, I guess, an enemy of the Shire, I see it as being. Do you know who the administrator of that page is?
Yes, that's myself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the deputation.
Just make one final statement in regard to that question. To improve, we need to acknowledge there's an issue, and in sometimes laughing at ourselves and addressing the ridiculous is important, and I've tried to use humour in that way, sometimes badly, maybe sometimes
all right.
Not so badly.
Thank you. Yep, you've got to just be careful it's not offensive, that's all. Yep, but thank you. Right, let's move on. We have our on-block items. So the items to move on block are 7.1, 8.1, 9.1.2, Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Atherton, seconded Councillor Jones. Councillor Massey has just left the room briefly. Okay, I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in favour to carry this on block items? All those in favour? Anyone against? It's 8-0, carried. Okay, our first item we are dealing with tonight is 9.1.1, which is the Southwest Native Title Settlement. Shire advice to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage. Sorry, Councillor Goobler, did you say something? Yeah, Jackie actually has a financial interest in this item. Okay, so okay, we're just going to hold for 30 seconds just to see when Councillor Massey comes back. Thank you, Councillor Massey. We're just about to go to item 9.1.1, which is the item Southwest Native Title Settlement, which you have a proximity interest. So Councillor Massey is leaving the room. Okay. So would someone like to move a motion for 9.1.1? Move. Councillor Newman, seconded Councillor Jones. Councillor Newman, did you wish to speak? Yeah. Councillor Jones? Okay. Councillor Glover?
Yes, I did want to make a small amendment to this item.
Yes, thank you. Did you realise that point 4 has similar wording over the page? That was following our discussion at the agenda briefing.
I apologise because the item had changed from the from the agenda briefing. Yes, I didn't realise that there had been another piece put into this.
Thank you. All right, so you don't wish to put your amendment in? Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone with questions before I go into debate? No. Is there anyone against this motion? Councillor Atherton, you're against. Would you like to speak, please?
I'd just like to say I'm against the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone for this motion that wishes to speak? Councillor Glover?
My understanding that this item really is just about reporting back to the department about land that belongs to Crown or state. It's not ratepayers' land in general, and it's just to answer back to generic answers as requested by the department with usage of the land, etc.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Glover. Is there anyone else against wishes to speak? No? I'm going to put this to the vote. All those in favour... Oh, sorry, close the debate. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Newman.
Reinforce what Councillor Glover has stated, is that this is a procedural process that the Shire is required to provide some responses back to Department of Local Planning and Heritage, and I encourage us all to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? So 1. Thank you. So what have we got? 4. 7-1 carried. The next item we are dealing with tonight is 9.2.2. Now, before that, actually 9.2.1 is accounts for payment. There's no motion required on this. It's just really presented to Council.
I guess I did take this item off en bloc. I had previously had some questions that I wanted to ask about it, but I have had them responded to me yesterday, which happened after I had requested to take it off en bloc. So I guess I had done it preempting that I might not get an answer to those questions.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. All right, so 9.2.2 is the monthly financial report for October 2022. Can someone move a motion for this? Councillor Atherton moved. Seconder? Councillor Newman? Councillor Atherton, do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Councillor Newman, did you wish to speak as the seconder? Thank you. Now, Councillor Glover, did you have a question on this one?
It's the same as the item before, that I had preempted that I was not going to get an answer to the questions that I had written to Council, because I know Mr Dosidelli was away, so I wasn't sure I was going to get an answer. So I had taken it off en bloc for that reason.
Thank you. Is there any other questions, or is there anyone that's against this that would like to speak? No? I'll put it back to the right of reply. Councillor Atherton? No? Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? No one against? No, so it's carried unanimously. The next item is 9.3.1, HJ Jack Dennings Funds to your lodge. This item is, the voting requirements is by absolute majority, I believe. Is that right?
It's not on the agenda as saying that, yes.
Okay. Can I have a mover?
Not yet. Hello. Thank you, Madam President. On the board here, you'll see, thank you, that the voting requirement is an absolute majority, which has changed, which was based on your advice, Councillor Glover. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. So, do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Glover? A seconder? And Councillor Atherton? Councillor Glover, did you wish to speak?
I would like to make another point about this particular item. I feel that this has been a long time coming to return the money back to the trust, and for it to be presented to go to the cause that it has always been designed to go towards. I don't know how many years this has been kind of going for, but it has, what my research on it is that we've held this money for since about 2015. So it's been a long time coming that we've held the money, and now it's going back to the people or to help the people who it was designed to help. I wanted to thank Messrs. Tuia and Fol for their perseverance with bringing this item to fruition, even though I understand that they are not entirely happy with the outcome with it having to go into a trust fund. But I think that everyone's waiting for the bus. Let's get the bus and get moving with this as well. So I do want to go with the recommendation. However, I do have a small amendment that I would like to make in the wording of the recommendation as well, if I may.
What is your amendment that you're proposing?
Does anyone else want to talk?
Sorry, I'll put you onto the seconder, which is Councillor Atherton first, and then I'll come back to you with an amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. I would be in support of this, and I would take a moment to thank and congratulate Ben Rose, the CEO, for getting this chapter closed. You will know that the Toohey Lodge debacle of the time created a lot of anxiety and a lot of internal disruption, and Ben Rose effectively had to pick up the pieces, and we now sit in a situation where the Shire is now in a great situation in regards to aged care, and Ben's had to deal with many important and difficult issues, this being one of those, and the outcome will be as intended. Well done.
Thank you. I'll now pass it over to the Councillor Glover for the amendment. Oh, did you want to have a question? Have you got a question, do you? Yes, certainly.
Question. Ben, the answers that you were giving earlier on to Mr. Toohey and so on, are they on record? Because if they're not, I just want to ask a question about it so it gets recorded tonight. So, will I ask the question? Okay. I guess the question that I want clarification that the decision that we're making tonight is based on legal advice that this fund has to go to a charitable trust. I mean, it was all over the place tonight, so if you can just make it clear.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councillor Mills. You're right, it was a bit over the place. I'm not sure I followed all of the questions and a lot of statements entirely. Just to provide a little bit of clarity, when the funds were transferred from essentially the Donnybrook Aged Homes Committee Trust account, it was transferred in three payments between, I think, November 2015 and January 2016. When those funds were passed over to the Shire, the body governing those funds essentially lost all control of those funds. And the Shire, whilst it was the beneficiary of those funds, had I suppose a moral obligation to see them spent on Toohey Lodge and potentially even Langley Villas and Minnonup Cottages as well, but there was certainly no legal or statutory obligation to do so. The advice that we've got is on page 20. The legal advice we've received is on page 27 of the agenda and will be in the minutes for perpetuity as well. So the legal advice that we've sought is that the only legally appropriate way to transfer the funds back is to first establish a charitable trust and then establish the signatories to that trustee, and then the Shire can transfer the money back. So I hope that sort of rounds out that question for you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions before I go to the amendment?
I have possible too, but I'll let... Sorry. Is this on? Yes. I have an amendment too, but expect it may well be along similar lines to Councillor Glover, so since she indicated first, I'll let her go, but otherwise I might move mine. Thank you.
I've got a question before I go to Councillor Glover. Just in regards to the details which Mr. Toohey and Mr. Fole were talking about in the actual trust itself. They obviously want the details in the charitable trust to be able to use it for a bus. Will they have communication with the trust, the person who creates the trust, to try and put those details in that when it's being developed?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, that's correct. The solicitors that we've received a quote from, I think, was Jackson McDonald, and they suggested it would cost in the order of $7,500, excluding GST, to establish the trust. And in establishing the trust, the purpose of the trust needs to be established. Now, under charities law, there are only certain purposes that the trust can be established for in order to comply with the charities law. The advice from Jackson McDonald solicitors is that for the purpose of purchasing a bus or spending it on refurbishments to buildings or other things like that is quite normal and can happen. Yeah, and so yeah, coming I suppose further to your point, the proposed signatories, being Mr. Fole and perhaps Mr. Tuia, and there might be one or two others, will need to sit down or have phone conversations with the solicitors to make sure that the purpose of the trust is exactly as they want it, but also legally appropriate as well. Yeah.
Councillor Glover, did you wish to put your amendment in now?
What I wanted to just propose, and I don't have the exact wording on it, but it was more just to say that associated with the deductible minus the deed costs, I'd probably like to just see the words only in there as well, just in case. My question earlier, like in the week, was just to make sure that there were no other associated costs that were going to be passed on as a result of this. Additional admin or legal fees or anything like that. So it was just to say that it was probably adding onto the point number 2, minus the trust deed costs only. I know it's only one word, but I feel that that kind of captures and locks that in. And then I would be happy with the rest. And I'm guessing, as a guess, I'm also guessing because now we're doing a absolute majority, then this will no longer be coming back to council.
Would you like to answer that?
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Just 2 points of advice. The first question first. My suggestion would be, but by adding the word only, that's only a very minor amendment, and with the approval of the mover, yourself, and the seconder, Councillor Atherton, you can do that without having to go through an amendment process. But Councillor Atherton, that's really up to you. Okay, if we can just put in the word only. It will still need, so the second question, it will still need to be reflected in the budget review. Yeah. The transfer happens before the budget review process is commenced or concluded.
All right, thank you. So you do have a question?
No, I have an amendment.
Well, what we'll do is we'll just we'll do one amendment at a time.
We just said that we weren't going to do that.
Oh, it's only very minor. Okay, all right, okay, so, yep, sorry. And then, okay, so you have an amendment?
I do have an amendment. I guess in proposing the amendment, I also need to check with the CEO that it's okay legally. I was listening to the concerns raised by Mr. Tuia, and I wondered if at the end of point number 1, where it says to authorise the CEO to engage blah, 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 etc., funds to an appropriate charitable trust, I wondered if one can add after the brackets for the same purpose as the original funds were provided. So all of number 1 stays as it is, but on the end of it we make it clear that the funds are going to an appropriate charitable trust for the same purpose as the original funds were provided. So that's my proposed amendment, but I'm asking the CEO also if that's okay legally.
Thank you, Madam President. Councillor Massey, I'm not 100% sure if that would be okay. The trust that was established for Mr. H.J. Jack Dennings funds, I'm not sure if that was a charitable trust or some other form of trust. So I don't know what the purpose of the money that was bequeathed via the will that went into the trust what its purpose was, and so by linking this to the previous purpose, it would probably be okay, but I can't answer that right off the spot.
Well, I withdraw my amendment since it seems to cause complications.
So you're withdrawing that amendment? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we've had Councillor Glover's moved, seconded Councillor Atherton. You've both spoken. Is there anyone against this motion that would like to speak? No? No further questions? I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, yes, close. Sorry, Councillor Glover, you're on the ball.
Yes, I just would, encourage everyone to go with this. Like I said earlier, it's been a long time coming, and it's great to have some closure on this particular item because I think it's been on the agenda over the last year three times, and so it'll be great to get some closure and to move forward from it. I'm sure all parties will be happy in the end with the result. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of this motion, raise your hand. Is there anyone against? No, carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the next item is 9.3.2. Agenda briefings and council meeting dates for 2023. Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Atherton, seconded Councillor Jones. Councillor Atherton, did you wish to speak? Councillor... No, just... You're the mover, so say something. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the council getting out to rub shoulders and also enjoying the wonderful facilities that the Shire maintains and looks after in our Shire. And tonight is a great example of that. So the more the merrier for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atherton. Councillor Jones, did you wish to speak to the motion?
I'm happy with the actual dates. There is a question up a bit later about the no live streaming video recording at the moment, but that can obviously be changed over the next period of time. If we have it at, for example, at Yabberup or even Balingup, we can have live streaming.
Yes, I don't know if we can have live streaming. It depends if it's the capabilities are out there. If we haven't got the infrastructure.
I understand that, but we can look at it.
Oh, if something happens in the future, and yes. Now, thank you very much for that. I know, Councillor Glover, you've got a foreshadowed. Is that right? I've got an amendment too, but...
I've got an amendment too.
So, Councillor Glover, you're first. So, do you want to put your amendment in?
Sure. Did you want to speak before
Sorry, Councillor Mills, are you...
Yeah, I just wanted to put an amendment also that the briefings are at 5 o'clock.
Just a moment. Yeah, just a moment. You might have to be third person for the amendment. We'll go to Councillor Glover first. So, Councillor Glover, please put your amendment in. Thank you.
Yeah, we need red lights. Yeah. Yeah, I did take the process correctly. Sorry, Councillor Mills. My amendment was to, along the same lines as what Councillor Jones said, and that was to, meeting dates are fine, but my amendment was to live stream all live stream and record all meetings. Change the meeting venue to reflect all meetings to be held in the Donnybrook Council chambers due to the live streaming technology, and instruct the CEO to undertake all statutory advertising in this regard.
Okay, we'll just get a minute till we type that up for you. Councillor Glover, can you have a look at the screen and see if that reflects what you're after?
Oh, I see down there, Donnybrook Council chambers. Yes. And the wording is live stream and record all meetings. Change venue to reflect all. It's just my wording that I put in, isn't it? Yes, I do agree with the wording of that.
Yes,
I have
Councillor
a question,
Massey.
if I may. I thought, there seems to be some, not misunderstanding, but confusion. What we have on the screen now is changing all meetings, both council and agenda briefings, to being in the council chamber, whereas there was some discussion down this side. We thought that Councillor Glover meant just the council meetings always. No, you mean including the agenda briefings? Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that.
So that's your question, is it both agenda and council meetings? Okay, so it's both meetings.
That's correct, all meetings.
And can I also ask you, there's the agenda briefing times are right for you? All 2 o'clock for agenda briefings and 5 p.m. for ordinary councils?
Well, that will be fine, thank you. Yes, that's correct as it is.
Okay, so that reads what you want? Okay. Okay, so thank you for that. That's your amendment, so you've moved that. Do we have a seconder for that one? Councillor Goobler? Yes, please.
I'm sorry, apologies for being abrupt. Yes, the reason for changing that is live streaming has been very, very successful within our shire. Just for an example, live streaming in the Harvey October OCM had 46 views. Bustleton, same meeting, 137. Capel had 96 views and Donnybrook had 347 views for the October meeting. So live streaming is very important to our community, particularly at present, and enabling the technology will assist community members to remain informed and ensure a transparent process has taken place. It's particularly important at the moment, and if meetings are not able to be live streamed, people can become a little bit suspicious, as we've seen in the past. As a councillor, I find it essential that we are performing as transparently as we possibly can. If the community are curious and interested, we should note it as being a good, healthy community with members who care about this wonderful place we live in. So it's more about the technology, and while I do apologise for the people who live in Balingup or other outlying areas that, we don't want to be Donnybrook centric, but it does mean that everybody can still be part of the meeting if they want to by just sitting at home looking at their computer. They don't have to sit through the boring bits. They can just sort of scoot along to get to the bits that they find that's important to them. So that's why I have made this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Goobler, as the seconder, did you wish to speak?
I'd like to support this motion. I think it's important that this live streaming has been very successful in the Shire and just the short time we've had it. So it's, I think it's very important that those people in the outlying areas can actually come into Donnybrook and make their deputations or etc. So I don't see any point in sort of changing to different locations, that we have a central location for this, and the Donnybrook Council Chambers is set up for live streaming. So I recommend that all councillors support this motion or amendment.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Goobler. Now, Councillor Mills, did you have a question? Or?
No, I haven't got a question. I'm going to speak against that rubbish.
Oh, okay. Is there any other questions before we go to Councillor Mills?
Yes,
question?
Just a question. Given that we've been having meetings in Bailing Up and I believe the other places for quite a few years, this is a very sudden change, and I'm just wondering, my question is whether before we make a decision like this we should seek feedback from those communities, from say the progress associations, because you've got the value of live streaming.
So your question?
Again, whether we should seek,
okay.
Can we seek before we make a decision on this? Can we?
I'll put it over to the CEO.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll use a terminology I've used before. We can do anything you like, but we can't do everything. Yes, the Shire staff can organise consultation on this, is, I suppose, the answer to your question.
Thank you.
Well, I guess
I would like another question.
If I can propose an amendment to the amendment, something to the effect that it's subject to consultation with the progress associations of Kirrip and Bailing Up.
All right. How about we deal with this first amendment first, and then we'll come to you. Yeah, we do one amendment at a time. Councillor Mills, did you wish to speak? Oh, sorry, there's one more question. Sorry, Councillor Mills.
Thank you, Madam President, and apologies, Councillor Mills. Might be two questions. The first one is, when we do live streaming, there's the opportunity for people who are watching at home or wherever to text message people in the gallery questions to ask during public question time. Is that acceptable?
They should have their phone switched off. I actually announced that at the start.
Okay, so if you were aware of someone in the gallery receiving questions from someone watching on live stream, what could be done about it?
I could just tell them to turn their phone off. There. Thanks for the question. Okay, are there any other questions before we go to Councillor Mills? Councillor Mills, you've got the floor.
Thanks, Madam President. Look, I'm going to speak against this amendment. I guess an example, this is the sort of culture between Donnybrook and Bailing Up. When Bailing Up, people like to get involved and they like to come to meetings such as this. This meeting's being recorded. It's not being live streamed, but I think it's important that we get out to these areas that we do at this stage, just to show the flag and to show that we accept that there are other places in the Shire that we need to be accessible to. I think making a change like this because it's live streamed, I think that's I can't say what I think. But I think it's important that we continue doing what we're doing, because people can get the minutes from our webpage from this. They don't need to see us for that 1 or 2 times a year that we might be out in the sticks. I think it's short-sighted, and I'm sure there'd be an awful lot of people wouldn't be happy about
having the venues changed, that we're Kirup and Yabberup and so on like this, because even though we don't get a lot there, I think it's good transparency for the council. So I just can't accept that we have all of the meetings in Donnybrook, and I'm against it.
Thank you, Councillor Mills. Is there anyone for it that wishes to speak for? Oh, Councillor Jones, do you have a question?
Not really for it, Madam President. I'm brain dead. I just need something clarified. I know the OCMs are recommended to have them at council chambers because of live streaming. That's fine. But on the schedule we've got there, for example, Kirup Hall agenda briefing, that's fine. Down further you've got Yabberup Hall agenda briefing, fine. Then you've got the council, Balingup Hall OCM. So wouldn't Balingup just simply become an agenda briefing?
Well, that's another amendment, if you wish to do that, but we're just dealing with one amendment at the moment.
I just wanted to need that clarified because I see that's the only problem is the Balingup meeting.
Well, we'll deal with this amendment first, and then we have another amendment. I think Councillor Massey, did you have another amendment? Yes, and we'll deal with Councillor Massey's got another one. Okay, so you have to be in the queue, the fourth one. Okay, so is there anyone for this motion that wishes to speak that hasn't spoken before? Well, now it's against. Anyone against? Yes, Councillor Newman.
Yeah, I'd also like to speak against this motion for very similar reasons to Councillor Mills. I think we've spent some time trying to engage better with community. Being present in community is perhaps the best way that we can break down the barriers with community. Perhaps we need to do more about working on how we live stream from other venues rather than changing the venue just so that we can live stream. So I would prefer that we continue to meet in community, and that if it was possible into the future to actually meet in more community rather than in less. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Anyone wants to speak for before I put it to the vote? I'll take it over to the... yeah, you can, yes.
Just similar to the last couple, we had this discussion, I think it was even here maybe 2 years ago, and we said, should we all go back to the chamber because we can record it? So we've moved forward and now we're recording it. Yes, we can't live stream it, but it's like everywhere else is just one step behind until we can get it caught up. But I think it was voted on last time that we keep going out and seeing the public and have them ask their questions, and it was well received by the public. So I think that it is important to do that, and live streaming is probably not strong enough to bring us back.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'm going to put this to the vote. Before I do that, I'll take it over to Councillor Glover to have her right of reply.
Well, I was one of the people who moved the motion last time to go out to the agenda briefings out into the community. I do know how important it is to go out to the community, but I also am very aware that it makes it a lot more accessible if we are live streaming, and live streaming can only happen in the Donnybrook chambers at this stage. If we were to be able to change that and to be able to do live streaming elsewhere, I would be happy with that too, but it appears that we can't do that, and that's why I'm suggesting that until we can get that technology happening, that we live stream all the meetings and record them all so that everybody in the community can watch. The other facilities can happen that we can also Zoom in and have Zoom meetings with people if they want to do deputations, so not everybody has to travel. We have the technology now.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to put that to the vote. All in favour of Councillor Glover's amendment, please raise your hand. Against? 7. 2-7 lost. Okay, so that brings us back to the executive recommendation. Now, before I go any further, Councillor Massey had an amendment. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm just thinking that it could even be an error on this, but what my amendment is to change this so that on the in November, when we've got the meetings, when it says we've got OCM in Balingup, could we not have the agenda briefing in Balingup and the council meeting in Donnybrook? That would be then consistent with what we've got for Curup and Yabberup, as far as I understand it. So I'm not quite sure why there was a difference made for Balingup, so I'm proposing to bring the Balingup meetings back in line with the ones in Curup and Yabberup. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councillor Massey. The recommendation from staff to have the ordinary council meeting here was really based on tradition, and I suppose with Balingup being the second largest settlement within the town site, within the district, there tended to be more deputations, more people coming through to the meeting. If we had the agenda briefing session here, there's not necessarily as much opportunity for deputations and that sort of interaction. So yeah, that was the reason for it. No reason it can't be changed, but it's really just a nod to tradition as much as anything.
Okay, Councillor Massey, did you wish to put through that amendment? Okay, the next person that had an amendment was
me.
You. Okay, looks like you've got the microphone.
My amendment is that the 2 p.m. start for briefings be changed to 5 p.m. or later.
The briefing sessions to be changed to 5
Yeah, the
p.m.
times for the briefing sessions are 2 p.m. My motion or amendment is that those times be changed to 5 p.m.
All 5.
In line, same as the OCMs.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Massey? Yep. Did you wish to speak on that amendment? Or we'll wait to our executive staff catches up on that amendment for you.
It speaks for itself, really. 2 p.m. We've got a number of councillors who have work and commitments and so on, and to come in the middle of the day is a bit of a struggle. And 5 p.m. I know there's a number of councillors who don't make briefings because of the early start, and I think if we change it to 5. I know from the discussions with a couple of councillors that they're more likely to be for the briefing.
Thank you, Councillor Mills. And Councillor Massey was the seconder. Did you wish to speak on that motion? Yes, a question, Councillor Atherton.
Sorry, my question is, we've got some professional dart players in the group. Will that affect them if they can't be there to play darts that night?
I can't answer that question. I guess he will. I guess it will be.
I've actually got a proper question.
Okay, Councillor Smith, can you please ask your question?
As I'm touring the world playing darts, I just wanted to ask how that affects that. Since I've been on council for. It's been a 2 o'clock start. Is there a reason for that? And is that going to affect anyone other than us just being selfish so we can get here?
Very good question. I'll ask the CEO.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councillor, for that question. The 2 p.m. start for agenda briefings and the 5 p.m. start for council meetings was somewhat of a trade-off position. in terms of staff cost and staff time to attend the meetings. Typically our agenda briefing sessions are tied up in 2 to 3 hours, which mean that staff are attending those sessions within their normal work time. Where we have, aside from the executive staff, where we have other staff come and they stay past 5 o'clock, it'll either be an additional pay or time in lieu or some other type of arrangement. So historically, it was that was sort of the give and take of the availability of people for those meetings. With agenda briefings being live streamed now, whether it's at 2 p.m. or 5 p.m. Although we're not recording agenda briefings, we're only live streaming. Yeah, so maybe that point won't really stick too much. But
all right, thank you for your questions. Are there any other questions? No. Is there anyone against this motion to change the agenda briefing times from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock who wishes to speak? Councillor Atherton?
I'd like to speak against the motion, thanks.
Right, you didn't want to elaborate on that? Right, thank you. Is there anyone for the motion that wishes to speak? Councillor Newman?
Yes, I would, Madam President, like to speak for the motion. Not only, I guess, from a selfish personal perspective, Councillor Smith, but I do think it also does provide opportunity for community to attend agenda briefings. 2 o'clock in the afternoon for a lot of people who actually work also means they can't come to the agenda briefings and hear probably what is, generally speaking, greater level of debate around or questioning around, not allowed to debate at agenda briefings, but a lot of questions get asked at those briefings that the community probably have had no awareness of, and it probably goes to why I think it's better to involve more of the community to be able to hear those questions being asked, so that they understand that councillors aren't just sitting here accepting everything the Shire puts before them, that it is actually, there are questions and intelligent questions asked during those agenda briefing periods.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Is there anyone against that wishes to speak? No, I'm going to put it to the vote. Now we have vote. Yeah, Councillor Mills, did you wish to close?
Councillor Glover had it too much. Whoops. No, I just encourage councillors to consider this and consider it in the affirmative. I think from quite a few points of view, I take on board the CEO's comments about the staff. All I'd suggest is if we get it smart, we'll have it over by 6 o'clock.
Okay, on that note, we will put it to the vote. All those in favour of this amendment? Against? Councillor Atherton is against, so that's 8-1 carried. Okay, so that becomes then the substantive motion, changing the agenda briefing times. So we go back to the substantive motion, which was moved by Councillor Atherton and seconded by Councillor Jones. Does anyone want to ask any questions before I put it, ask people against this motion? Are you against, or are you asking a question, Councillor Glover?
Asking a question.
Yeah, yes, sure.
I'm wondering, I understand that we've all lined up for amendments, but I'm wondering if we could make another amendment at this point, or if this is done and dusted.
We can make another amendment.
Are you okay if I make another amendment? My amendment would be it's just about the audio of the meetings there. I mean, it's live streaming. Live streaming is so important to everybody in the community. Some people can't get out to the outlying areas, or to Balingup, or even to to the Yabrup Hall, etc., to attend the agenda briefings. But to ensure that the meetings are live streamed, rather than just rather than just audio recording. I know that the technology is in the council chambers, but the technology is wherever we take it. We can do something that is perhaps not as high quality as what's in the chambers, but we can still do that. I know that there are many people who have either offered to do it for us at this meeting or have the capacity to be able to do it. My 14-year-old son could do it, in fact. Just to sort of make the amendment to suggest that request the CEO to undertake live streaming of all meetings.
Live stream, that was your amendment before, was to live stream all meetings, and that was voted down. So how is this different to what you had before?
It was different because I was saying that they needed to be in the council chambers in order to do that. Now I'm saying that, yes, okay, happy to keep the venues where they are if that's what everybody thinks, but I would still like to see the meetings live streamed.
Okay, thanks for that clarity. Do we have a seconder for this motion? Sure.
Can I just ask a question, please?
Just
on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've got a question on it too. Yes, Councillor Mills.
We're talking about one council meeting that wouldn't be live streamed. Is that viable?
There would be also the briefings as well, she's referring to. So there's one council meeting and 2 briefings. I'm just going to get a seconder, and I'll run through that, and then I'll ask my questions. Is there a seconder to this amendment? No? Okay, so that amendment lapsed, so I don't have to ask that question. That's good. All right. I have an amendment. Mine is quite simple. I just wanted to substitute, instead of Currup Hall for the agenda briefing, I thought because we went to Currup Hall this year, I thought it'd be appropriate to go to Brookhampton Hall, which is a different venue but still sort of shares the love a bit more. So I'll move that. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Smith? I'll just wait till the executive just catches up. Yes, thank you for that. I'll speak to this motion. The reason being is this year and the last couple of years we've been to Currup Hall, and Brookhampton we have some other halls that are just as nice, so I think it's time we went to Brookhampton Hall, and that's the reason why I've put this amendment in. So my seconder, Councillor Smith, did you wish to speak? No? No. Okay. Are there any questions on this, Councillor Atherton?
Could I move an amendment to the amendment?
No.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Would Madam President consider having an alternating situation with Kirrup and Brookhampton, that on every odd year it was in Brookhampton, every even in Kirrup?
Yeah, would you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam President. Councillor Atherton, you won't be able to do that in this item because this is just setting the meeting dates, venues, times for next year. What I'm sensing from the conversation is here that Council might like a policy on its meeting venue process so that every November or December we don't have this protracted conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, good idea. Is there any other questions on this, Councillor Jones?
Question. I think the philosophy behind it is good, but would it be more prudent to say have the Brookhampton meeting in June, so we're attending 4 of them?
That is another amendment. So we just deal with this
I
amendment.
thought you might amend that.
So, no, March, it'll be too cold in June. It's freezing. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Is there anyone against this motion? Wishes to speak? Councillor Goobler?
Yes, I think it's. I think the outports of Yabberup and Balingup and Kirrup are distance from Donnybrook, where Brookhampton's a close haul to Donnybrook, so it's not far for those residents travelling to Donnybrook to attend those meetings. So I don't think it's a good idea. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, so you're voting for the motion, is that correct? Oh, you're voting against? Against, okay. Is there anyone for this motion that wishes to speak? Yes. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to clarify for members in the gallery, as well as our councillors, so the motion at the moment is that all agenda briefing sessions held at 5 p.m. The agenda briefing in March will be held at Brookhampton Hall instead of Kirrup. The agenda briefing session for September will be held in Yabberup Hall, and the council meeting for November will be held in Balingup Hall, where we are now. Just to make sure everyone's clear.
Thank you. And we're actually going to vote on... before I vote, I'll close. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mills, did you have a question?
Just a question.
Certainly.
What the CEO just read out, we're not voting on that now, we're voting on your amendment.
No, we're just voting on my amendment, so...
But if your amendment's carried, that's the result.
That's correct. So if there's no other questions, I'm going to close on the amendment, right of reply. I think I've pretty well said everything. It's just really to share ourselves around a little bit more, and Brookhampton, I'm sure Kirrup won't mind that we've been there this year, and next year we'll go out to Brookhampton. So thank you. I'd encourage you to vote for my amendment. All those in favour of my amendment, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? 3. So carried 6-3. So that then becomes the substantive motion. Is there anyone against the substantive motion? No? Anyone for the substantive motion that wishes to speak? Okay, we go back to the original mover of the motion for the right of reply, and that's Councillor Atherton.
Thank you, Madam President. I request the councillors to vote yes and do it quickly. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Atherton. I'll put that into the vote. The vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And against? Councillor Mills, did you? Oh, you voted earlier. Sorry, 7-2. Carried. All right, that concludes our part that is open to the public. So, did you wish to raise, Councillor Mills, did you wish to raise? No? Okay, thank you. I'm going to put it to the vote to go behind closed doors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Newman, Councillor Glover seconded. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? 9-0, carried. And thank you very much for coming tonight. Enjoy your night and travel very safe home. Thank you. We might just adjourn for a minute.